WHO urges full evacuation in Al-Shifa hospital following Israel military operation. Rescuers halt operations to reach trapped men in collapsed tunnel. Good afternoon and Salam Malaysia Madani. I'm Jessica Lee. Welcome to World Today. The World Health Organization, WHO, has led an assessment mission to Al-Shifa Hospital in Gaza City and determined it was a death zone, urging a full evacuation. Now, in a statement, WHO said that itself and partners are urgently developing plans for the immediate evacuation of the remaining patients, staff and their families, adding that 291 patients and 25 health workers remained inside the hospital. WHO said it had headed a joint UN team, including public health experts, logistics officers and security staff from a range of agencies on a short and very high-risk mission into the hospital on Saturday. The assessment team had gone into Al-Shifa after the Israeli military had earlier ordered the evacuation of some 2,500 displaced people sheltering on the hospital grounds. The columns of sick and injured, some of them amputees, were seen making their way out of Al-Shifa hospital towards the seafront without ambulances, along with displaced people, doctors and nurses, as loud explosions were heard around the complex. The UN assessment team was meanwhile only able to spend an hour inside the hospital due to the security situation. The team described the hospital as a death zone and the situation as desperate. The signs of shelling and gunfire were evident. The team saw a mass grave at the entrance of the hospital and were told more than 80 people were buried there. WHO said a lack of clean water, fuel, medicines, food and other essential aid over 6 weeks had caused the largest and most advanced hospital in Gaza to basically stop functioning as a medical facility. It said among the patients remaining in the hospital were 32 babies in extremely critical condition. There were also 2 people in intensive care without ventilation, 22 dialysis patients whose access to life-saving treatment was severely compromised, and many trauma victims. While several patients had died in the past 2 to 3 days due to the shutting down of medical services. The UN Health Agency said that given the state of the hospital, the team was asked to evacuate health workers and patients to other facilities. In the meantime, Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas made an appeal to US President Joe Biden to intervene to stop the Israeli operation.
أتوجه للرئيس الأمريكي جو بايدن الذي يتحمل دون غيره مسؤولية خاصة لما له من مكانة دولية وتأثير كبير على سلطات الاحتلال الإسرائيلي للتدخل الفوري لوقف هذا العدوان. الرئيس بايدن، أدعوكم بكل صفاتكم الرسمية والإنسانية بأن توقفوا هذه الكارثة الإنسانية، بل هذه الإبادة الجماعية بحق أبناء شعبنا الأبرياء، والتي لن يبرئ التاريخ أحدا منها، وتقديم الإغاثة لشعبنا المحاصر في قطاع غزة. لا بد من وقف هذه الحرب فورا. كيف تكون حرب الإبادة هذه دفاعا عن النفس كما يقولون ويدعون؟ إنها في الحقيقة جرائم حرب تستوجب العقاب.
Gaza authorities have raised their death toll to 12,300, including 5,000 children. The United Nations deems those figures credible, though they are now updated only infrequently as war devastation has hampered communications. Separately, thousands of pro-Palestinian demonstrators around the world marched to demand the Israeli Zionist regime to stop its bombardment of Gaza. In Berlin, more than 2,000 pro-Palestinian protesters marched peacefully, demanded a free Palestine in chants as they walked through the streets, calling for Israel to stop the war on Gaza. A group of doctors joined the protests, holding banners accusing Israel of committing war crimes by evacuating and bombing hospitals.
weil wir da gegen den Krieg und für Frieden demonstrieren wollen. Gegen den Kindermord, gegen die Waffen, die auf Gaza herabgelassen werden, gegen den Völkermord, gegen die Vertreibung, gegen die Vernichtung, gegen die unmenschlichen Zustände, die in Palästina passieren und gegen den Zustand in Deutschland, gegen die Meinung, die Politik, die Presse.
Selber aus Gaza und habe inzwischen 65 Mitglieder meiner Familie verloren. Wissen Sie, das ist eine andere Geschichte als das, was man im deutschen Fernsehen sieht. Man sieht einfach nur den Fokus auf die andere Seite.
While in French capital Paris, thousands of demonstrators braved the rain to call for a ceasefire in Gaza. They held a giant list with the names of children in Gaza killed since the 7th of October during Israeli strikes.
Aujourd'hui, le seul brin d'humanité qu'on demande aux pays occidentaux, c'est d'avoir juste un minimum d'humanité pour dire stop à ce feu-là. Stop, ce n'est pas possible. Il y a d'autres moyens de négocier, de trouver des solutions pour deux États, mais ce n'est pas possible de lire le nom de ces enfants et de leur âge sur une liste aussi longue.
A giant Palestinian flag hovered in Barcelona's Las Ramblas, where hundreds of demonstrators shouted their support for Palestinians trapped in Gaza, condemning the Israeli bombardment of the enclave. There were similar protests in the capital, Madrid, where demonstrators marched to the Israeli and US embassies. Some 170,000 people marched through the Spanish capital, Madrid, on Saturday in the largest protest yet against an amnesty law which the socialists agreed over Catalonia's 2017 separatist bid in order to form a government. The demonstration, the latest in a series of protests in cities across Spain against the amnesty, took place 2 days after Spain's socialist Prime Minister Pedro Sánchez won a 4-year term with the backing of Catalan and Basque nationalist parties in return for agreeing to the law. The amnesty will cover about 400 people involved in the independence bid that came to a head in 2017, including separatists, but also police involved in clashes with activists. The independence referendum was declared illegal by the courts and resulted in Spain's worst political crisis for decades. According to Spain's CSIC Research Council, the amnesty will be the largest in Spain since the 1977 blanket amnesty for crimes committed during the Francisco Franco dictatorship, and the first amnesty law approved in the European Union since 1991. Sánchez, who won a parliamentary vote to form a new government on Thursday by 179 votes in favour and 171 against, has defended the law, saying an amnesty would help to diffuse tensions in Catalonia. Protesters have held rowdy demonstrations outside the socialist headquarters in Madrid for 15 nights consecutively since the deal was announced. There have been clashes with police which left officers and demonstrators injured, but in general, the protests have been peaceful. Former US President Donald Trump on Saturday celebrated a court victory after a judge on Friday allowed him to remain on the ballot in Colorado's 2024 election, despite finding that he engaged in insurrection by sparking the 6th January attack on U.S. Capitol. Now, the ruling from Judge Sarah Wallace, which is almost certain to be appealed, rejects a bid by a group of Colorado voters to disqualify Trump under a rarely used amendment to the U.S. Constitution that bars officials who have engaged in insurrection from holding federal office. Appearing at a rally in Iowa, Trump called the ruling a gigantic win, saying Judge Wallace was radical left but had seen the light. Now, Trump also weighed in on President Joe Biden's meeting this week with Chinese President Xi Jinping, whom he praised as a man who looks like a piece of granite, who runs China with an iron hand. Now, Trump blasted what he said was Biden's plan to revive an Asian trade deal Trump withdrew from in 2017, called the Trans-Pacific Partnership, a move Trump said would pulverize U.S. manufacturers and farming, a pillar of Iowa's economy. The Biden administration has been working to cement a U.S.-led agreement known as the Indo-Pacific Economic Framework for Prosperity, or IPEF, and has not committed the U.S. to rejoining the 12-nation deal, now known as Comprehensive and Progressive Agreements for Trans-Pacific Partnership, or CPTPP. Now, Indian rescuers on Saturday said they had paused efforts to reach 40 men trapped in a collapsed road tunnel after a cracking sound created a panic situation over the possibility of a further cave-in. Now, excavators have been removing debris from under construction road tunnel in the northern Himalayan state of Uttarakhand since Sunday. After a portion of the tunnel the workers were building collapsed. The week-long rescue efforts have been slowed by the continued falling of debris as well as repeated breakdowns of the crucial heavy drilling machines. The government's highways and infrastructure company, NHIDCL, said a sudden cracking sound late on Friday had created a panic situation in the tunnel, sparking fears the roof could cave in. Operations were then halted amid the possibility of further collapse. Rescuers have been communicating with the trapped men using radios. Food, water, oxygen and medicine have also been sent to the trapped workers via a 15-centimeter wide pipe, but those trapped inside are desperate. On Friday, rescuers said that they had drilled less than halfway to where the men are trapped. Coming up next,
Kerajaan telah memulakan usaha rintis penanaman padi 5 musim dalam tempoh 2 tahun di beberapa kawasan jelapang, antaranya di bawah kiri, Perak, Kanga, Perlis, Kota Sarang Semut, Kedah. Ini memperbaiki pengairan di kawasan Lembaga Kemajuan Pertanian Muda, Perlis dan Kedah. Dan pengeluaran padi diperlukan walaupun pelaburan setakat ini bernilai 3 bilion ringgit. Peruntukan subsidi padi bukit atau padi huma yang ditanam di Sarawak khususnya, kita tambah menjadi 50 juta ringgit.
And we start off with badminton. The national men's doubles pair, Ong Yu Sin and Chiu Yi, who were the sole representatives remaining in the 2023 Japan Masters, failed to make the final after losing a 3-set thriller, 21-16, 20-22, 17-21 to a Chinese pair in the semi-finals. In the action at the Kumamoto Prefectural Gymnasium, Yu Sin Yi started in superb style by taking the first game against Yu Chen and Oh Xuan Yi, the 7th seeds, 21-16. The Chinese pair, however, fought back to take the second game 22-20 and forced the match into a deciding third game. The Malaysian pair, who had won a bronze medal at the 2021 Huelva World Championships, lost the deciding game 17-21. The loss was the pair's third at the semi-final stage this season, suffering defeats in the Switzerland Open and Taiwan Open in March and June, respectively. And moving on to Euro 2024 qualifier, France recorded their biggest ever victory with a 14-0 rout of 10-man Gibraltar in Group B qualifier on Saturday, as Kylian Mbappe grabbed a hat-trick and Warren Zaire-Emery scored on his debut. France was 7-0 up by halftime with Marcus Thuram, Zaire-Emery, Mbappe, Jonathan Klaus, Kingsley Coman and Youssouf Fofana on the score sheet after they had taken the lead through a third-minute own goal. Gibraltar were reduced to 10 men in the 18th minute, and France's biggest ever win, 10-0 over Azerbaijan in 1995, was clearly within sight. Adrien Rabiot and Coleman's second brought the record closer, and Ousmane Dembele made it 10-0 before Mbappe scored twice and Olivier Giroud got in on the act with 2 late goals to complete the demolition job. Now, over in Saudi Arabia, champions Al Ittihad have named Argentine Marcelo Gallardo as coach through to the 2025 following the sacking of Nuno Espirito Santo. Now, Gallardo returns to management after leaving River Plate last year following an 8-year spell that saw him guide the team to 14 titles, including 2 Copa Libertadores, making him the club's most successful coach. The club in a statement said the new coaching staff, led by the Argentinian Marcelo Gallardo, will be coaching the football first team with a contract extending for a year and a half. Al Ittihad are 5th in the Saudi Pro League, having won only once in their last 5 games. They also slumped to a 2-0 loss at Air Force Club in their last Asian Champions League match, though they still lead Group C with 9 points from 4 games against 7 for the Rockies. Let's have a look at tennis. World number 1 Novak Djokovic outclassed Carlos Alcaraz 6-3, 6-2 on Saturday to reach his 9th ATP Finals title match, where he will face local favourite Jannik Sinner. Now, in a rematch of this season's Wimbledon final, the 24 times Grand Slam champion capitalised on the Spaniard's inconsistency to continue his quest for a 7th trophy this year. The opening set between the 2 best players in the world was played at a rapid, breathless pace, with both striking the ball cleanly and attacking without hesitation. Djokovic was simply playing at a higher level, with Alcaraz serving at 3-4, and the Serb neutralised his opening salvo. And as the rallies lengthened, now Djokovic, aiming for a tournament record 7th title, now meets Sinner, who earlier beat Daniil Medvedev, and will be out for revenge after losing to the Italian in the group stage. Earlier, home favourite Jannik Sinner became the first Italian player to reach the title match as he beat Russian Daniil Medvedev with a 6th impressive season and had the first opportunity to secure a break of serve at 1-1 in the opening set. But Sinner stood firm. Now, Sinner secured a decisive break in the next game as some errors flew off the Medvedev racket. Now, both players were rock solid on serve in the second set with only 1 break. Sinner has now won 3 in a row against the Russian. Let's check out F1. Charles Leclerc converted his strong practice pace into pole position for the Las Vegas Grand Prix during a thrilling qualifying session around the all-new strip circuit, with the Ferrari man getting the better of teammate Carlos Sainz and Red Bull's Max Verstappen. Leclerc was consistently quick throughout Saturday morning's running and delivered a 1 minute 32.726 seconds in the decisive pole shootout to finish half a tenth clear of Sainz, who will drop 10 places on the grid due to an engine penalty. Now, both Leclerc and Sainz improved on their second Q3 runs. Verstappen could not find any more pace and returned to the pits, leaving him third from George Russell, who was the sole remaining Mercedes after Lewis Hamilton dropped out in Q2. Several drivers starred in the tricky, cool conditions, with Pierre Gasly putting his Alpine an incredible 5th. Williams teammates Alex Albon and Logan Sargent taking P6 and P7, and Valtteri Bottas ending 8th fastest for Alfa Romeo. McLaren had a nightmare session as their recent run of form took a nosedive along Vegas's high-speed streets, with Lando Norris missing the Q2 cut by 0.02 seconds in the 16th, and F1 rookie Oscar Piastri only managing the penultimate spot on the grid in 19th. In WRC, Toyota driver Elfyn Evans remained atop the timesheets after the Saturday's morning stages at Rally Japan, the final event of the 2023 calendar. Now, Evans took a commanding 1 minute 49.9 seconds lead over teammate Sebastien Ogier into the day's 8 stages after starring in treacherous wet conditions on Friday. The Welsh driver conceded time to Ogier across Saturday's stage, but will head into Sunday's final 6 stages with a margin of 1 minute and 15 seconds. Toyota remained on course to secure a podium lockout on home soil as two-time world champion Kalle Rovanperä ended the day in third, 1 minute 40.6 seconds adrift. The sole remaining Hyundai of Esa-Pekka Lappi completed the day in fourth. M Sports Otana managed to extend the gap over 6th place Toyota's Takamoto Katsuta to 14.9 seconds in the day's final stage. From flying the electric air taxi to crazy boxcars race, here are some creative inventions from around the world. Electric aircraft maker Joby Aviation recently achieved a milestone with its exhibition flight at the downtown Manhattan heliport in New York City, marking the city's first ever electric air taxi flight and the first time Joby has flown in an urban setting.
This is our electric air taxi. It takes off and lands vertically, transitions, flies on the wing. It seats a pilot and 4 passengers and flies at speeds of up to 200 miles an hour. And what that means is that a flight from here in Manhattan to JFK can take as little as 7 minutes.
Joby, in partnership with Delta Airlines, aims to launch its air taxi service in New York, offering fast, emissions-free journeys and reducing helicopter noise impact.
So instead of the low-frequency whop-whop of the helicopters that travels for miles and penetrates buildings, the acoustic signature of our aircraft blends into the background, and it's just it sounds more like the noise of traffic or of a fan. And so this is one of the aspects that makes this such a game changer when we're talking about bringing this new mode of transportation to people around the world, and especially to here to New York.
The company plans to begin commercial passenger service in 2025 and has received Federal Aviation Administration certification for flight testing, bringing it closer to commercial operations. Unlike other electric vertical takeoff and landing aircraft manufacturers, which plan to sell aircraft to customers such as airlines and logistic companies, Joby's business model is similar to a ride-share app. With just a few months to go until the Paris 2024 Olympic and Paralympic Games, production is underway for some 2,000 torches made from recycled steel that will carry the flame to the opening ceremony. Now, after the casting of about 5 tons of recycled steel and its rolling last summer at the steelmaker ArcelorMittal, metal plates measuring 1.5 meters by 3 meters were delivered to the Normandy factory of Guy de Grain, specializing in tableware, to proceed with the production of the torches.
En termes d'étapes, on a la découpe, après on a l'emboutissage, on a une nouvelle découpe, après cette découpe on va faire de la soudure pour assembler les demi-coquilles. Après, on va différencier le haut et le bas de la torche en mettant donc une première découpe pour aller au moulurage pour le bas et une deuxième découpe pour faire le haut de la torche avec la petite Marianne.
The uniqueness of the 2024 torch is that it is reusable, cleanable, and rechargeable for the first time, capable of fulfilling several successive stages for games that aim to promote the idea of sobriety. In previous editions, at least 11,000 single-use torches were manufactured, but this year, only 2,000 copies are being made for the approximately 11,000 torchbearers who will relay the flame between Olympia and Paris starting from 16th of April. Now, some of the torches will be given to the Games partners and museums in cities and regions that have paid 180,000 euros to be part of the Olympic Flames journey. folly drivers in crazy box carts raced the track in Buenos Aires, delighting up to 30,000 spectators. 30 carts took part with vehicles in various shapes from wine barrels to a toilet and an Argentine stew.
En este caso nuestro equipo se llama Alto Guiso y elegimos hacer una olla de guiso bien representativo de lo que es Argentina, ¿no? Y en la mesa de cada uno de nosotros siempre hay un buen guiso.
Contestants were judged on originality, performance and time to complete a circuit filled with slopes and curves.
Soy fanática de los autos. La verdad que cuando se presentó la carrera ni lo dudamos. Y bueno, mi hermano me dijo, nos presentamos, le dije, obvio, pero manejo yo. Así que hicimos el auto entre todos y bueno, salió bien.
A retro ambulance cart won the contest after completing the course in less than a minute.
Rakyat Malaysia memang hebat kerana tegas pertahankan hak Palestin. Memang kita jauh dari dunia Arab. Kita jauh dari dunia Palestin. Kita jauh dari Gaza. Tetapi setiap detik berlaku menyentuh hati nurani kita. Kerana apa? Karena kita tahu dan faham arti manusiawi, arti ihsan, arti kemanusiaan, dan lebih penting arti keadilan melawan kezaliman Israel.
And that's it for this afternoon. In our top story today, WHO urges full evacuation in Al-Shifa Hospital following Israel's military operation, describing it as death zone. Do join us again tonight at 8:30 p.m. for more updates. From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. I'm Jessica Lee. I'll see you later.